because I've been cut off lately, but I think it should work now. So, welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, and if you are already doing it, how to grow your business. So, we've got a question of what does a tax lien on property mean? So, first, I'm going to explain what it means, and at the end, I'm going to sort of tell you how it's helpful to know when there's a tax lien on a property. So, there are different counties where it's tax lien counties or tax deed property. So actually Suffolk County is a tax deed property. So if you don't pay the taxes, well, let's talk about what happens. So you have property taxes on a property. We have some of the highest property taxes in the country here in New York. Very common for a house that's not a beautiful house to have $1,000 a month in taxes. $12,000 pretty average in a lot of parts of Long Island. Some places are less, some places much more, right? There's an area right near my office called Woodsburg. Not uncommon to have 30, 40, even $50,000 a year in property taxes. People in other parts of the country think that's insane. So what happens when you don't pay the taxes, right? When you don't pay the taxes in Nassau County, you get a tax lien. And what that means is that once a year, usually in February, although the pandemic has screwed this up, they're going to sell a lien on your property to, in essence, the lowest bidder, based on interest rate. So I mean, it's a little bit of a crazy auction, but the county will collect a certain amount. I think it's 4%, and then you basically bid on how little interest you want on it. So that is a tax lien that's bought once a year. Now, there's really one company that buys like 98% of all these tax liens, right? It's a company called L&L. And it's run by attorneys. And the reason why they're willing to take 1.5 or 1.75% is because it's a guaranteed payback. They know they're going to get paid. Now, they may not get paid for a while, but the way it works is that there's a redemption period. So in Nassau County, that's 2 years, which means that when you buy a lien, there's nothing you can do about it for 2 years. And there probably have been liens during those 2 years that sold to other people. So you have first dibs on that lien at the same rate that you paid before. And then after 2 years, you can start the foreclosure process, which in New York can take 10 years. But what happens is that some of these tax liens turn into home run situations because you can buy a $10,000 tax lien, and if you're willing to gut it out for what could be, with nobody bothering you, 7 years, you can get a property, you can foreclose on that property, and you can get a $500,000 property theoretically for a very small amount. It's not as easy as I just put it, unfortunately. It's pretty easy. Some things are easy like that in other counties and other states. In New York, it's not easy because of the length of the foreclosure process. In other states, the foreclosure process is quick, right? In Texas, it's like 45 days. So, and that's a tax deed state. So you buy a tax deed there, somebody's in, you can get them out of there quickly. You can evict quickly. You can foreclose quickly. These things happen quickly. In New York, it doesn't. So you need the L&L is a company run by attorneys, and I assume they get people who lend them money to buy these because it's a guaranteed payout. Now, even if it's a low percentage of 1.75%, usually these things will get paid before the foreclosure happens, right? And a person can redeem that until the foreclosure. So let's say somebody fights the foreclosure and it's a 10-year process with a 2-year redemption period, 12 years. The day before that, they can just pay off the tax lien. So, or they can sell the property theoretically and pay it off with the proceeds. So you're guaranteed to get paid at some point. But the idea with them, I believe, and I don't know anybody there, and but I would say is that they're guaranteed to get their money back. They're guaranteed to get a rate of return on that. And then I used to go to the foreclosure auctions in Nassau every Tuesday for 4 years. They would always show up almost every week with something there. And what would happen is, they would foreclose on properties. So these were properties that they had bought liens from a long time ago, and they can make a lot of money on. So a few home runs here and there, and but it's guaranteed. You cannot lose your money because at some point either the property is going to be foreclosed on by the lien holder, or it's going to be paid off, redeemed by the owner, or it's going to be sold by the owner and it'll pay it off at that point. So it's a can't lose situation. You're guaranteed to get paid back at some point. You're guaranteed a crappy rate of return if you're going to bid, if you're going to be competitive in the bidding. But every once in a while, you buy a house for a ridiculously low amount of money, and that's I think where they make their money. Again, I've never spoken to anyone at LL, and there are other people there, guys who do this. Probably three or four other guys who buy tax liens, who are willing to bid in the area of L&L or who know what L&L doesn't like. But it's a business. It's a business, but you need a lot of patience and you need money to sit with these things because you're going to put in the money and you're not going to see anything out of it for probably a very long time. Okay, now why is it important to know about tax liens or tax delinquents? So the truth is, in most jurisdictions, you can get a list of tax delinquent properties. Probably more than 75% of the counties in this country, maybe even more. If somebody's late on their taxes, they release that as public information. Of course, in our area, it's very hard to get. Possible in Suffolk, and once a year they give out those numbers in Nassau. Not an easy situation. But let's talk about why taxes won't get paid. If there's a first lien holder, right, a standard situation, most people, when they buy a property, they take a mortgage and the mortgage holder pays the taxes. So even during a 10-year or 15-year foreclosure period, the lender will pay the taxes on the property. So if there is a tax lien, it doesn't always, but usually means that there is no first lien holder on it. Almost always. Now, sometimes the person did not escrow for taxes. He wanted to pay them himself. But the lien, you got to understand that the tax lien is the primary lien. It comes before the first mortgage holder. So if I am Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, and I have a property and I'm going to foreclose and the taxes aren't paid, I may elect to pay the taxes myself because I don't want anybody taking this house from me and screwing around with my lien. So usually, not all the time, but usually means there is no first mortgage on it. So if you could get a tax delinquent list wherever you are, or you get a tax lien list, it's probably an indication that that property has no first mortgage. That's a big deal, right? Because that usually means there's significant equity. I'm not going to say 100% equity because the person can have other liens on the property besides the taxes. If he wasn't paying his taxes, he might have other judgments that come on the property. But it's usually a good indicator that there's good equity in the property and that this might be something you want to pursue, assuming, and I'm making a lot of assumptions here, right? I'm assuming you went around looking for driving for dollars and you found a crappy property and you look at it and it has a tax lien on it. Now, I've always recommended that people who are driving for dollars do some research with the county to see if this is something even worth contacting, because I found in our area that most of the properties that look like they're abandoned fall into one of four categories that make them not a deal for me, or not worth pursuing for me. I'm not going to say not a deal because the last two are possible. But what I found when I looked at like 600 driving for dollars properties, and every one was either A, already bank owned, so that's not a deal because the bank's going to list it with an agent. B, already investor bought at an auction, so that's gone. And then the last two are incredibly deeply underwater. So, $500,000 mortgage that had a list pendants on it 10 years ago is probably double to $1 million, something I could pay $300,000 on. That's something very, very underwater. Now, it's possible in that case to go for a short sale, but I don't like doing that. Well, the fourth was that a reverse mortgage, which is also a rabbit hole that I don't like going down. And even though I really do understand reverse mortgages, maybe that's why I don't do it, because the way a reverse mortgage works, there's not to get into the whole thing on reverse mortgages, but we used to record the mortgage, the maximum that the borrower could take out. We record 150% of that as a lien. So if the guy was allowed to take $400,000, we recorded a mortgage of $600,000. Doesn't mean he took $400,000 out. He might have only taken 100. So now, 10 years later, he might only owe 200, or he might have taken the whole 400. And now it's 800. So the amount that's recorded on reverse mortgage doesn't really tell you how much is owed. It's very hard to get that number. The only way to get that is if the borrower, who's usually dead in a case of a house where a house is falling apart, or the heir has to ask for it, and the heirs don't understand the reverse mortgages. They think the property's gone. So these are rabbit holes that I don't want to go into, right? I don't want to go searching for short sales, and I don't want to go. Just reason why, because I don't like dealing with the lenders. I like dealing with the sellers. Lenders, you never know what they're going to give for the price. You never know what they're going to accept. And reverse mortgages, it's just too complicated for me. So I found a lot of these properties fell into those categories. For me, it just wasn't worth it. But I recommend that you do the research. So sometimes you'll see tax liens on it, and if you only see tax liens, it usually means there's no first mortgage, and that's a huge indicator that this is something that has equity and that you might want to pursue. So I hope this was helpful. somewhat explaining what a tax lien is. A lien is a how do you describe a lien? A lien, I would describe a lien as a lien, right? That doesn't work. A lien is a debt that gets recorded with the county and attached to a property. It has to be paid off when the property is sold. It can be paid off earlier. Usually incurs growing interest. So it's sort of like a judgment or a mortgage. A mortgage is a lien or a tax lien. So if you are interested in other ways that can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in the course that teaches how to do this, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. And if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. And if you are watching on any platform, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help me. And keep the comments coming. If it's a simple comment, I'll just respond. There are no bad comments, nothing too basic. I'll answer any question you have about anything. It doesn't have to be about this topic. And if it's a topic that I've covered maybe in depth or recently, I'll just send you a link to the video. If it's something new, I'll do a video on it. So thank you very, very, very much for watching.